Good morning, everyone. Today is Friday, March the 4th, 2022. My name is Barry Cowan. I've been the president of the Deerfield Beach Computer Club since longer than I can remember. And I want to welcome our returning and new participants to the meeting. I'd like to acknowledge my co-host for today, Carol Friedman, my tech expert and vice president, Steve Costello, Bob Gastisha, and today's host, co-host, and also presenter, Judy Taylour. I don't think I've left anyone out. Welcome to everyone. Well, really quickly, on March 13, 2020, it was our last class. That is in a classroom. Already we're coming up on the second anniversary of it, and we're still Zooming. And I'm glad to say that it's been going very well. We're keeping a very loyal following here, and I thank all of you from the bottom of my heart for keeping this club alive. It's something that I need to do to keep myself going. And I love all of you for doing that and supporting me. On Tuesday, March the 8th, at 1 o'clock Eastern Time, Apple's going to present another major event virtually. They're going to introduce a whole bunch of stuff. I'll be talking about that a little bit later, but just don't jump the gun right now. If what you've got is working and it ain't broke, there's no need to fix it. So keep that in mind. On Sunday, March 13th, we go to Eastern Daylight Time at 2 a.m. So make sure that you move your clocks ahead 1 hour on Saturday night. You'll lose that hour of sleep that you've been enjoying. And of course, Erin Gobrav, it's March 17th for St. Patrick's Day. And everybody will be out in their finery. They're already out doing Mardi Gras in New Orleans, I understand, and should be a wonderful time for everyone. So that being said, if there are no further questions, I will introduce today's guest speaker, Judy Taylour. She's a highly popular, nationally known guest speaker and devotee of lifelong learning. She serves the Santa Clarita Computer Club in California as its president, newsletter editor, and webmaster, has taught adult education computer classes through her local high school for over 2 decades, serves APCUG, the Association of Personal Computer User Groups, our national organization, as regional advisor to 3 states in the West Coast, as well as Australia and Canada. And she facilitates the quarterly APCUG Virtual Technology Conferences and Speakers Bureau. And I guess she eats and sleeps between those times somehow. I'm pleased to call her a good friend. We've been on the phone many, many times. She's helped me a great deal with Zoom and other issues. And I'm grateful to have her as a friend. And she's going to show and tell you all about digital assets, what they are, and how to set up and implement a digital asset estate plan. So let's give a warm welcome to today's guest speaker, Judy Taylour. A sitting ovation, folks. Okay, Judy, it's all yours.
Thank you, Barry. Appreciate that. We no longer have virtual technology conferences. They have been replaced with Saturday safaris. It was difficult to find presenters that were willing to present to nobody, because with a webinar, you can't see anybody. And I started the Wednesday workshops in May of 2020 because I figured we all needed something extra tech to do during the week because we were theoretically sheltering at home. So we're having a good time with the Wednesday workshops, and our first Saturday safari this February was quite popular. So here we go. I'm going to share my screen and off we go. So much for that. Digital estate planning, your identity isn't safe even after we're no longer here, which is actually can be the pits. I'm brought to you by the APCUG Speakers Bureau. Bob G is a member of the Speakers Bureau also, and it's a benefit of your group's membership in APCUG. So this is a silly question. How much of your life is virtual? Well, for those of us at this meeting, 1.5 tons of it is virtual. There's probably almost zero that isn't. How often have you written a check lately? We pay our bills by, the computer and on and on. And do you know anybody who doesn't have a computer, a tablet, or they use their smartphone for everything? Every email, payment, movie, picture, file that's in the cloud is considered one of your digital assets. But what happens if you die and no one can retrieve them? Your estate can get stuck in digital probate, and digital probate is relatively new, and the rules are ever changing. So they are broadly defined as information about us that is electronic, posted online, or stored in a device. Computers, tablets, wrist technology, phones, the cloud, you name it. Anything that has anything electronically that belongs to us or about us is part of our digital legacy. And the year after we die is one of the most vulnerable times for ID theft. We have to worry about it now and be so safe and secure. And somebody for us needs to worry about it after we're no longer here. Death is a public record. Criminals have absolutely nothing else to do but sit at home with their bathrobes and fuzzy slippers and comb through the recently deceased records, and they can easily create a fake identity. I gave this presentation to the Sarasota group a few years ago, and the next morning in our little newspaper, we have 220,000 people in the valley here, there was an obituary, and it would have been so easy for me to take all of the information, and if I knew what I was doing, create a fake ID. And I thought, proves my point. But most people don't think about the digital footprint when it comes to their will or their living trust. And we need to manage our virtual life after we're no longer here, because that will protect our privacy, identity, and reputation. And our heirs can get caught in a long, drawn-out probate process that is still being legally defined. I have had people tell me that it's taken them up to 2 years with just regular executor stuff they needed to do, let alone adding all the digital stuff. So, same as usual, same as right now. They want our information to take over accounts. There's taxpayer ID theft and refund fraud, medical ID theft that is huge right now. Our driver's license ID theft. They can apply for new credit cards and loans, or why they would want to apply for employment for somebody who's 1,000 years old, I don't know, but they certainly could as me. And I really don't want that to happen. That can cause problems with my estate. The creditors can come after my heirs. Lenders are fooled, of course, and some of our hard-earned money can be lost. We don't want that to happen. So please, don't include too much identifying information when you write your obituary. And I suggest you do that. I have come kind of to the conclusion when so much information is in an obit, the kids or whoever's writing it thinks they need to fill in every single box. Those obits are published in the newspaper. They're online. They don't go away. Anyone, anywhere can access it. It's also included on the funeral tribute page. A couple of free presentations ago, I thought I would check to see what we, his sisters and I, said about my son, and we did a darn good job. there isn't anything that could compromise he or his family. And you need to think about that, because that's still 10 years later on his tribute page. And again, anyone can take a look at it. It might be on a memorial page that is set up somewhere. So please make sure not too much personal information is shared. So call the newspaper, send him an email. Could I please have an obit form? I'd like to put the information in the newspaper. You have to decide what you want to do. All of those, pretty benign. Nobody needs to know our date of birth. They can say she's 16,000 years old or whatever, but date of birth, birthplace, our parents' names, the year we graduated, all places where our ID can be compromised. Why graduation year? There's no telling what's in your yearbook. On your high school or college or university page, have you had reunions? And there's even more information there. And if you've been married 16,000 times, why do you want to include all of your marriage dates or even all of your spouse's names? At this late date, I don't think anybody would be interested in what I did in my work life. I've been volunteering for, oh Lord, 35 years in the tech world. And that's what I'm known for. I'm not known for HR and legal department stuff. Awards, accomplishments, memberships, don't include the dates. Again, there's no telling what is on a website for something you have a membership in that gives them a leg up on ID theft. The same thing with your volunteer positions. Don't include the dates. Benign. And what do? The same thing they do now. Your mother's maiden name is golden for them. They include your street address, the whole 9 yards, and then there's information about the funeral, and there's going to be food afterwards at the church or whatever. And the kids come back to your house and there's nothing left because somebody has come in and taken everything away. Use your age, so on and so on. Please be careful including your pets' names, because 1 in 6 passwords include a pet's name, even though we know we're not supposed to do that. So as usual, with a name, address, birth date, the bad guys can purchase your social security number on the internet. And I was really sad to see that it would only cost them $10. I got them from AARP, and I would think it would be worth more than that, but I guess it isn't. And I don't want a thief to become me and rack up a lot of charges, open new accounts, etc., and trash my identity. We don't want that done now. And we don't want it done after we're no longer here. So Facebook page, our email accounts, and more are likely to outlive us. We need to manage our digital legacy. It could be the trickiest part of our estate planning. And if we fail to plan ahead, we can prevent our family having access to family photos or videos. We need to take steps to make sure our family can have those kinds of things. We need to have somebody that knows about digital, settling our final bills, and more. Because each online service provider has its own terms of service, of course they do. And each one of them has a different way on handling our accounts when we're no longer here. There's federal and state laws. And we want to make sure our digital executor doesn't violate any terms of service under the Stored Communications Act that we probably haven't heard of before. We need to be, and again, like I said, this is changing all the time. If you live in 2 different states, you need to make sure that everything is applicable to legally both states. And the laws are there to protect our digital assets. But thank you very much, but that can create obstacles for family members to gain access to our digital assets. And as I keep saying, the laws keep changing. Our estate plan should give our digital executor authorization to access any and all digital data that belongs to us. And of course, the laws aren't standardized across the US. The Uniform Law Commission is trying to standardize the laws by drafting model legislation. I live in California. We don't hardly ever like anybody else's model legislation and would come up with our own stuff. And that might be the way your states are too. The first thing we need to do is we need to start a list of all of our online activities, accounts, and where they are. And here's just some of the things where you might have a username and a password. Very minimal list. Here's a longer list, and down in the lower right-hand corner, it says on and on and on, because everybody has different accounts, things they belong to, etc. And we need to think about all of that because it all needs to be completely closed. Again, we need usernames and passwords possibly for our smartphones, our wrist tech, tablets, computers, external drives I talked about, Wi-Fi network modem routers. Do you have Netflix, Hulu, Prime subscriptions? They all need to be closed. Do you shop on eBay, QVC, Home Shopping Network? Think about all of that has a username and a password. And of course, we have all that for online banking and our other financial services that we do online. Pay our bills, money management, tax programs. I thought, I've got a couple of software subscriptions, but that's about it. And then you get the pop-up that says, thank you for renewing your fill in the blank. And I thought, oh, I forgot, I do pay that automatically. That all has to be recorded someplace so that can be closed. Do you have social media accounts? Almost everybody at least has one. And who gets rights to monetary assets? Do you have a podcast, a YouTube channel, websites, an e-commerce store? Somebody has to be in the will or living trust to get all of that. So what we need to do is a list, create a list of our online accounts. And then when we do, we need to ask ourselves, do we really need all of them? Have you had some for a gazillion years and you haven't used them for a long time? Close them. It'll save your digital executor time, and I put in there and possibly tears because my digital executor is one of my daughters. But I thought, I can do this. I will close some accounts. I ended up closing two. I closed a Yahoo account that I've never used for email, but I needed it for screenshots for my students. And since I'm no longer obviously working and I closed the Southwest Technology Conference, I don't need to be on LinkedIn anymore. So I patted myself on the back, but kind of felt really bad that I could only close two of them. She's going to be responsible for closing everything else. There's my paid automatically accounts, photos, photo albums in the cloud, add them to your list, or it's possible that your family will never see them again. And do you have a lot of photos that nobody's going to know who they are after you're gone? I have a trunk sitting right here to my left, and it came from Pennsylvania to California when my dad's dad came out to start the Standard Oil facility in El Segundo, California, which is just south of LAX. And it was filled with pictures. I'm the last one. I don't even think either of my brothers, who were quite older than me, would know who they were. So one day I did the next to last bullet point. I just destroyed them because I didn't think it was necessary for my kids to sit there and go, why in the world does mother still have all these photos of people who we have no clue who they are? But if you do, you can scan them and add identifying information. And again, it saves your heirs time and tears. Again, at the Sarasota group, I always ask at the end, have I left anything off? And this guy said, well, you know, what are you going to do about your DNA test results? And I thought, oops, I don't do genealogy. And I had never thought of that. So I looked up, you know, from what he said, I added it to my presentation and I sent it off to the Sarasota group so they could send it to the attendees. And he said, our results remain in the database long after we're gone. So we need to decide now, what do we want it destroyed? Do we want our digital executor to have the right to it? Well, if nobody else in your family does genealogy, I think it would be the first. Destroy it. So you need to designate a digital executor in your will or your living trust. When I called the attorney who put mine together and said, hey, Seth, would you mind adding a digital executor to my living trust? There was a little bit of a silence and he said, digital executor? And so I told him that, oh yeah, I said, I've had this presentation that I put together a couple of years ago. And I just thought I should have one of these in mind. And meanwhile, of course, he had sent me this many page document to put all the information in so he could put it all together. But there was nothing about my digital assets. And he said, hey, do you mind if I include your information in what I send to everybody else? And I thought, oh my, more pages of things to fill out. And I said, of course. So I can't tell you how many times I've given this presentation and one guy said, you know, Judy, I thought I had everything taken care of and my executor knows exactly zero about technology. And he went, oh my, more work. So our digital executor should understand email, social media, online storage, all of these things that most of us deal with every single day. But hey, that person might still be using a flip phone. I doubt someone with a flip phone is going to be that knowledgeable about what we're going to have done. So please do not include any logins, passwords in a will. It's public document. Living trust is fine. We need to research how to close the accounts we have. We're the ones that are retired and supposed to have all this time on our hands. We can create a list of URLs where they can go and find out how to close them down. Or we can, you know, download and make a notebook full of download instructions on what they need to do. But we should be proactive about this. They're going to have enough to do to take care of everything else in our will or living trust. So what are you going to use for account information for all these usernames and passwords for every single thing that needs to be closed? Are you one of the smart ones who uses a password program? Do you have all your accounts, the login information, password on an encrypted flash drive? And of course, you have to remember to give that encrypted password to your executor. Do you have an encrypted file on your computer? Do you have a list in a notebook? And people say, oh, yes, I have a list in a notebook. And then my next question, is your handwriting clear to everybody else? Or would you be the only one that would know, is that an O or is it an A? Is it an exclamation point or is it a 1? And they go, oh, okay, never thought about that. I do tend to scribble a little bit. My printing is wonderful. I say I have preschool printing, My handwriting is very difficult to read because I've been using a computer for over 35 years. And you kind of lose your handwriting skills after that. But think where you keep all this information. And if you have a flash drive or a file on your computer, you need to remember to keep it up to date. Perhaps you're changing your password on an account, or you've decided, people say you should change your passwords every once in a while. So you need to keep your lists up to date, and especially the lists in your notebook. As somebody told me the other day, they have theirs in a ABC format, and it's wonderful because that's the way that's their password program, like an address book. And she said, I wrote very clearly and everything is in alphabetical order. And I thought, good for you. That works for you. That's great. So you got an old-fashioned flash drive there. And one of the groups on the East Coast got one of these personal internet address and password logbooks for all of their members. And I'm on their mailing list, and they bought too many. And they said, if anybody needs another one or didn't get one, please let us know and we'll make sure you get it. And I thought, okay, I have that little notebook right here next to my keyboard, and somebody comes in. I've had the plumber this week. I've had the dishwasher installer. My computer's in the family room. Of course, they weren't in here, but let's say they were, and they look, oh, look, there's the internet address and password logbook. Oh my gosh, it fell on the floor. I think I'll pick it up. And they quickly take some pictures of what's in there. I just thought that was strange that would be something a computer club would give to its members, but that's just me. So with many of the password managers, and that's really all of them now, you can designate someone who can get access to your passwords in the event you are unavailable. You can specify a waiting period, grant them immediate access, or just flat out give them your username and password in the first place. One of my younger members, every once in a while we do have one, moved to the Chicago area, and he all of a sudden was in a 2-week coma. They really didn't know what was wrong, didn't know what was going on. And it was time for bills to be paid and all that good kind of stuff. And he used a password manager program. The little woman didn't know anything about that. And she was not only had her husband in a coma, she couldn't do anything with the stuff that needed to be done. And luckily her daughter's boyfriend was an IT person and got in touch with LastPass, and they gave her access to the account on a special dispensation, so to speak. And since then, he has learned the error of his ways, and she's included in all of that type of information. So there's Dashlane, free for 50 passwords if that's all you've got. Syncs across all your devices. 1Password claims to have never been hacked. But even if it gets hacked, if you have the world's best password, they're not going to get into your data. So you need to have an extremely convoluted password. And I always tell people, write it on 13 pieces of paper and hide them somewhere, various places. That's the 1Password you definitely don't want to lose. Bob G uses 2Password programs. And he says, if one goes down, he's got the other one. And I say, oops, I can't remember the password for the account 1, but I've got account 2 that I can use, and it's got account 1's password in there. So I'm double safe. LastPass is very popular. They changed some of their things that were available on a smartphone, and it's free, and decided to make it a pay feature. And even though it's $12 a year, people left LastPass kind of semi in droves, and they went to Bitwarden, a lot of them. And the buzz was moving everything from LastPass to Bitwarden went seamlessly, filled in all the blanks, the whole 9 yards. And again, it's free or $10 a year. But all of a sudden, when you are looking at password manager reviews, Bitwarden usually has risen to the top. So your digital executor needs access to your phone or email account where verification information is sent. For every single one of my accounts, I have one email address where if I forget my password, whatever, and I need to get a verification number sent, it goes to one email account. And that, of course, will be the last email account that is shut down. Need 2FA. If you have chosen 2FA, Premier America, my bank doesn't let me choose. I have it no matter what, but it comes to my phone. So she would know my one personal account I've had since 2003 and the phone, leave those going for a while after I'm no longer here. But if you have a lot of 2FA set up, you usually can find all the information you need where you requested that information for XYZ account. So check out the setup menu. We used to laugh. For my Pixel phone, I used my fingerprint and I'd say, okay, you got my phone here. I say, you'll have to come down wherever I am and put my finger on the phone. And of course you can't because I'll be cold and it needs to be warm. But that was just one of our little jokes. So if that's what you're using now, you need to think about, is there an alternate way someone is going to be able to get into your phone? And we need to remember to keep our account numbers and passwords up to date wherever we are saving them. There's where I talk about the verification. Some entity company might want to send a verification code because you might not be using the person who's no longer here's computer. We've had problems with our Zoom account lately, we being APCUG. We have them available for groups who cannot afford a Zoom subscription to use it. And the program chair has changed, the president has changed. When the new one tries to log in, Zoom says, I'm sorry, I don't recognize you. And of course, they're doing this just before their meeting. And last Saturday, we had a group who could not hold their meeting because they couldn't get in. And we've gotten the information out to all the groups that, if you're going to change computers or you're going to change who's doing it, please test it out before your meeting so we can make sure that Zoom knows who you are. Close down your email accounts and phone last. That's for me. Here's what my verifications are. And many websites are out there and they say, hey, we'd be more than happy to help you put your list together. Everplans is one of the best ones that I looked at. There's many of them out there. They have a ton and a half of information that is free. And they say, quote, store and share everything important. And Everplan is a secure digital archive of everything your loved ones will need should something happen to you. And they really do. They have information about all of this if you do not have anything set up yet. And the list goes on and on and on. And again, it's free. When I put this together years and years ago, they didn't have a trial membership, but they do now. So you could check it out and see if this is something that you would like to do. And it's state specific. They have all of your legal, your death certificate information, your end of life resources, strictly for Florida. And again, if you live in 2 different states, you could check all the stuff out about Florida, and then you just check out all the stuff about the other state and see how it compares. See if you're missing something in one or the other that you need to add a little bit more. They have instructions on how to close more than 230 digital accounts. They keep that information up to date. And this is the kind of stuff I receive at APCUG. January of 2021, CST sent me information. I have no clue who that is, but the estate said, please note that Charles was deceased in September 2020. Please remove him from future emails. It took them from September to January to get in touch with me. And thank you, the estate of Charles Saint somebody. And I appreciate that, because that person was an officer in the group, and they hadn't told me that their treasurer was deceased. So when we sent emails to their group, to the president and the treasurer to renew their dues, the email wasn't bouncing, but it wasn't getting to this gentleman. This is the first email I have received from an estate. I usually receive the emails from the kids. Please take dad or mom off your, email list, blah, blah, blah. So you need to have a Social Security account. I personally don't care if you ever use it, but even our kids, our grandkids, our great-grandkids, anybody who has a Social Security account should create one. And that's so we have it set up before the bad actors get enough information together now to set it up. We should also have an IRS account. Again, they actually say before the crooks do it for you. And the same thing, you may or may not ever have to access it, but you should have it so the bad guys don't get it. And again, you're going to want to give it an extremely good password. And I gave this presentation again. Well, actually, I just gave it again to the Glendora group in January. They wanted a redo. I probably had given it to them 3 years before that. And at the in-person one, when we had the joy of being in person, at the end of it, this member raised his hand, and I don't remember which account it was. He said he had been working with, it was either the IRS or the Social Security Department, to prove he's who he says he is. He said, I have gone down and talked in person, and he said, I cannot tell you how difficult it is if a bad actor has set up an account in your name. It's difficult, to get that changed. So we don't want that to happen. This is Yahoo. If you don't have a login and password, you need to send a letter with a request stating the Yahoo ID or a Yahoo ID. A copy of the document appointing the requesting party as a personal representative or executor. A copy of the death certificate. Or if they have the username and password, they can just log in, go to the user deletion page, enter the password in that tricky little CAPTCHA visual code you have to check. Maybe you have to do it 2 or 3 times, but finally you get it, and click terminate this account button. Which one is easier? Which one is less time consuming? These are the kinds of things we want to provide our digital executors so they can snap their fingers and it's done. With Gmail, a relative or legal rep must contact Google. There's a 12-step form, 12 steps, count them, that you have to fill out, not us, but them. They will take a scanned copy of the death certificate, and they need a copy of the person who's requesting it be closed, government ID or driver's license, and they say after careful review. Well, if you've complied with the 12 steps and you have valid ID, you have a scanned copy, for some reason, they still want to give it careful review. And hey, how much easier it is to just go into the inactive account manager with the username and password, and boom, it's gone. So in my case, with Gmail, I have 2 unique Gmail accounts that are mine. I have one for my club. I have 6+ APCUG Gmail accounts. So I've got to have that listed in there. Don't forget to send information to, APCUG that I'm no longer here. And then you have to think about what other organizations will need to be notified if you are no longer around. You get hit by a bus, which is a book that Everplans has, that is a really good book. And, something happens, they don't know that you've been ill or anything. You're just here today, gone tomorrow. Well, your executors need to know who to contact to say, hey, I know, mom or dad was the vice president of your group, but no longer here. So you need to make a list of all of the organizations to be notified. Were you treasurer for another organization? They need to know to take you off the signature card. So with Facebook, you need to decide, do I want to shut it down, which is my choice, or do I want to memorialize the page? Every January, I get an email from Facebook that says, would you like to give, blah, blah, tell her happy birthday. Well, she was the mother of my son's best friend. She's been gone almost as long as Randy has, but her kids don't know anything about Facebook. And I get this every single year. Every July, I receive an email from LinkedIn, when I was a LinkedIn member, asking me if I wanted to wish John Iasulo happy work anniversary. He had a tech talk show in Las Vegas and was a Southwest Tech Conference sponsor. And his wife, widow, left it up. She wanted people to remember him. But it kind of would make me sad every July when I would think, gosh, John, I really miss you. But, I didn't need that. And then I think the only person who might remember this person is Bob G. But all of a sudden, last year, I received another email, which is how I get notified by Facebook, that I might want to wish Rich Chanel happy birthday. Rich Chanel is really now well over 100-year-old APCUG person. And for some reason, Facebook is now asking me to wish him happy birthday. And it was so interesting because the entire time that he has been dead, I've never gotten one of those emails. It was really weird. Twitter, deactivated. Instagram, deactivate. LinkedIn, going to need the login and password. And again, you need to make a dispensation on all of your accounts. With Facebook, verify they are an immediate member of the family or executor. Got to have one of those death certs. I love this. Or birth certificate, power of attorney, living will or trust, estate letter, obituary or memorial card. Once they have the required documents, put them all together, they send to Facebook a request and fill out another form. The deceased person's full name as appears on the account, the link of their Facebook account, or they just go into Facebook with your username and password and go to delete my account page, click on delete my account, put in the information. You're no longer on Facebook. Afterwards, the criminals might contact your grieving relatives from all the information you have included in the obituary. Beware of scam calls after it's been published. This is for them. Easy for the bad guys to call. Hey, mom or dad owed me money. I will send you the invoice. I've got money due, etc. You're not going to know, is this person for real? Is it a scam? Whatever. Somebody might send something that requires immediate payment, COD. And they need to know to request as many original death certs from the funeral home that they can possibly get. And for your state in Florida, there's a link on all the ins and outs of all that type of information. And they need to know, they immediately need to notify the Social Security, IRS. They want a copy of the death cert. Department of Motor Vehicles, that's interesting because you know, we all know Social Security, IRS, the credit bureaus. I'd never thought about the Department of Motor Vehicles. And that is really sometimes the first thing on organizations' lists when they say this is who their executor needs to contact. And I suggest calling all of the bureaus, and they have a specific statement that they want your executor to use, and text, phone number, whatever on the line there. And they need to follow up with a letter. Certified. How long has anybody did a certified return receipt requested letter? And they need to include all of that information about you and a copy of the death cert. And then they have to include their name, their contact information, how they're related, proof they're the representative, and if they're the surviving spouse. I found that interesting. They want a copy of the marriage certificate. And every place I looked, not every place, but a lot of the places that are in my resources, they said your executor should request a copy of your credit report 3 times a year. That's the first one that they want to double check and make sure you have included all of your accounts on your list of what needs to be closed. We know there's no charge. And we also are double checking to make sure that no new accounts have already been opened, because somebody wrote a wonderful obit with all kinds of wonderful information in it, and somebody's already acted on that. And it's also suggested that, again, it's done for the first year and even the second year after we're no longer here, just in case. And if it's already occurred, they should do the steps above, but they should also file a police report and alert law enforcement in the deceased jurisdiction. So if the ID theft is in another state, they file it with the police department there, but they also, do it with where we live. In my case, it would be Santa Clarita, and it would be the Los Angeles Sheriff's Department. And they would have to provide evidence of fraud, like a collection notice, credit report, whatever. And there's the certified letter again, and include a copy of the death certificate. And they should request an investigation. Hey, we want them to take care of this for us. We just don't want this to just go down the drain. And we want a letter saying, no, that is not your mom and dad. It was ID theft. We want a letter of clearance because they opened up an account and they didn't pay. And gosh, gee, they're trying to get $5,000 from the estate. So what you're going to get from me is a Word PDF of this presentation. The ever popular where to find stuff when I'm no longer here. And that kind of is, if you haven't done anything like this and you haven't gotten this specific in closing down your life, and your executor walks in the front door and puts their hands on their hips and says, okay, now, where am I going to find all of the information that I need? I want my kids to walk in and go, okay, Mom, we got your checklist here, and we're going to start doing our thing. Where you keep everything. And again, you customize this list for you. Jerry Heaton out of the Central Florida Computer Society wrote an article on this, and he included his list. And I looked at it and I thought, oh, he's got a lot more money than I do. I don't have any of those things. So I got in touch and said, I'd love to be able to add a list to my presentation. I had a list, but it wasn't as robust as his. And he said, sure. The Westchester group in New York got in touch and said, hey, what do you know about a digital asset presentation? I said, I'll send you mine. I'll send you my list. They added stuff to the list. I gave it to the daughter who's going to shut me down, and she added things. I sent it to a doctor who is the president of a group in Torrance, California. He said, Judy, you don't have any medical stuff in here. The former president and treasurer of the Los Angeles Computer Society, Charlie, his body has already gone to USC for science, and they're finished with his. And when Charlotte goes, that's where her body's going to go. So I included that type of information. And there's a word table where you can put your answers and comments to the questions, if you're a Word person, or an Excel spreadsheet, depending upon what you're more comfortable working with. And I am ready for questions.
Wow.
Let's give Judy a big hand. This is about the best presentation, informative, comprehensive, entertaining, that I have ever seen. Judy, I want to thank you very much for giving this presentation today. It was certainly, if you look at my eyes, an eye opener in more ways than one. And it's things that I had not thought about. I'm in a unique situation. I wish I had children or was not an only child. It would make it so much easier to do things, but it doesn't matter, since we should be thinking about these things while we're alive. And it was just great. Anybody have any questions, please?
Please use the raise hand option. It works
Yes.
really well.
Mhm.
But Barry and I talked about this, and again, at the Sarasota, they were quite vocal during, after presentation time. And one of their members said, I have no family. I have nobody to leave anything to. What should I do? And I'm going, leave it all to me? I don't know. And so we talked a bit, and other people were adding, because they all knew him. I didn't, but he was asking me what he should do. Well, he's a veteran. I said, you should go to the VA and share your information with them. I said, I am sure they will point you to an attorney that you will be able to trust. And then you could decide, do you want to give it to your local library or something like that? And he hadn't thought of that. He was just thinking he doesn't have any people to give it to. And I said, and oh, by the way, you might want to give some of your money to SCRUGS. If you've enjoyed coming to the Sarasota meetings for all these years, and I know that's happened with the Channel Islands group, just west of me here. They've had at least 3 members who have died, and in their will or trust, whatever, they have left money to Channel Islands PC Users Group because they really enjoyed going to the meetings, going to the SIGs, reading the newsletter.
Judy, it was suggested to me that I begin to develop a list of charitable organizations. For example, I certainly want the Alzheimer's Association to have something. I'm a longtime supporter of the public broadcasting system, PBS, from our WPBT, which gives all great performances and things like that to support the arts and entertainment. I would certainly want to be remembered for that.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I might want to give to the American Heart Association because my parents suffered it and died from it. Maybe the American Cancer Society, things like that. I probably wouldn't specify an amount of money, but I would probably say a percentage, just like you sometimes do in your estate. You don't want to say an exact amount, but this person should get a certain percentage of this.
I do have an exact amount for my 5 grandsons though. And an age where they get it. And the executor, who's the mom of only one of them, is the controller of their money.
Wow.
Life goes on Grammy's rules, even though Grammy's no longer here. I have a tech buddy. He's leaving his money to his high school. Not the university, but his local high school. He enjoyed his time there. So whatever's left when they sell the house, blah, blah, high school. Marcia.
Just a comment to Barry. I was executor for somebody who originally had set up her will to leave percentages of her estate to varying groups. And the lawyer, before she died, her lawyer said, new lawyer said, that's not a good setup. It would be much better if you specify specific amounts. As long as those amounts are there, that will be done. If the amounts aren't there, okay. But that leaving it a percentage wise gets really messy and very difficult to deal with.
Okay, that's a good point, Marcia.
Good to
Thank
know.
you.
Thank you. Dorothy,
Are we going to get a list? Barry, are you going to have it in download form? Because your list is wonderful and I think all of us would love to get that list.
Yeah, you can send me something, Judy.
I will
whatever
send you everything that I send everybody.
the links
Okay,
and
thank you.
everything.
Thank you. And it'll be on the download page that we can download that list.
It will be probably put on the handouts page on our club site, which is the ideal place for it. Or it might be in the ICYMI in case you missed it.
You can just send it to everybody who's here.
Yes, I can.
Yep. You spend the time to attend the meeting, you get the follow-up material.
It's wonderful. I want to thank you for that. 'Cause,
Oh, I saw several ladies going like this. You all must be moms.
yeah, and I have all my information in different places. And every time my son comes in, I say, well, go here. And he says, Mom, put it all together. So this is going to be wonderful for me. Thank you.
Mhm.
Who would you get? An elder care attorney? Is that the kind of person that would do that?
My attorney is
You
an
may
estate
want
planner.
them some sign in password.
Okay, what is it?
I'll look it up.
Did you hear me, Barry?
Yeah, can you repeat that? Because,
Mine was an estate planner.
okay,
And my oldest daughters, both my oldest kids, son and daughter and son-in-law. But they say, but she doesn't have another son. Well, he's my son. They're teachers, and he had the estate planners, 2 kids had gone through his high school class, and he teaches econ and history. And he said, I got one for you. So
okay,
I had no clue. And I have recommended him several times because he was really, really good. And he spoke English. Like when I would start my first class for adult eds, I said, if this class is in English, if I say a tech term that you do not understand, I said, you call me on it immediately. And he was really good because he didn't use legalese. I'm a, retiree, so to speak, from a law firm, in-house counsel, department administrator. And I would have understood it, but I so appreciated not having to go, excuse me, could you, dumb that down for me? It was at my level. Bob.
Just a little added word. This planning is just as important as doing your regular backups. And you have to do it before you have a problem. In this case, before you pass away, because it's too late once that happens. Just the same as you need to create a backup while you don't have a problem. Too late after you have one.
right.
Yep.
That's the greatest fear, I think, that's in a human being, even in animals, the fear of the unknown. What's going to happen? When is it going to happen? How is it going to happen? Where is it going to happen? We pray for all of those in the Ukraine who are suffering right now. and all over the world. That's something that you never know where you're going to be and what's going to happen. Yes,
Oh,
Colleen.
Steve
Yes.
Costello in the chat box. If you
Okay.
guys don't have, don't use the Office products because you don't want to spend the money, LibreOffice, Writer, and whatever their Calc. Writer and Calc will open up the Word document and the spreadsheet, as will Google Docs.
And it's totally free.
And both of the last are totally free. And with Writer, my members wanted a presentation on it, so I downloaded it a few years ago and just gave it. And I could immediately find everything but one thing. And I taught Word, and I'm a heavy Word user, and it was super simple. And if you have any questions, Steve will be more than happy to answer them for you.
Colleen, you have a question.
That's correct.
Yes, well, first I want to thank Judy. This was a wonderful presentation, very informative. But I do want to say that one of our club members who's here today, Ron Laverne, did a presentation a while ago when we were all in person and in the class. And he did a presentation on keeping all the records in one place. And his suggestion was setting up a journal, which I did. And my children know where I keep the journal. And I've got all my information that I feel is so pertinent, so important, right in that journal. And I just keep updating whatever information I need to. So thanks to Ron, I do have that and my children know where it is.
Ron, what do you say about that?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I wanted to thank Judy. This was an excellent program, and I got a lot out of it. There was things that I didn't really realize, that how vulnerable we are with the internet and everything that it's out there. A lot of our information is out there to be captured by people that we don't want them to know our information. And I'm going to, when you get that download, I'm going to copy it, and if it's okay with Judy and Barry, I'm going to forward it to some family members and some very close friends.
Absolutely.
But thank you, Judy. It was wonderful.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah, see, I don't do the journal route because I don't have the time. I am doing this.
Yeah. Well, okay. I like hard copies. I like to see something, and I
You
don't like to
print it
look on a screen. I know with technology you can do that, but I have a big notebook, and everything is in that notebook, and I'm constantly adding stuff, and I'm constantly looking at it, and I cross things out, tear pages out, and so forth. But I think it's imperative to keep that up, and for your children to know, because I ran into a lot of situations where someone died, and the husband and the wife used to come to me, and they don't know.
I'm in the fire evacuation zone here. I've had the fire go by a couple of times, left my sprinklers on the downslope on and saved the houses mine and the ones down below me. Who knew you're not supposed to do that? But
Yep.
I have, you know, one of those grocery bags that are use these instead of getting the bags at the store. I have every single thing in there. I have my living trust documents, the whole 9 yards, and it sits to the left of the hutch in the dining room. I thought, why take it out and put all this stuff someplace else? Just keep it in here. You can grab it on your way out the door, because along with, it's kind of goes with my to-go bag.
Reminds me of the bag Alice had waiting every time it was time to go to the hospital before the little one was born.
Yeah, same thing. Okay, thank you. The same thing.
Yep. Good point.
Barry,
Yes, Ron.
you might tell the story about our real good friend, Doctor, and what happened to him after he passed away. He was absolutely brilliant and very, very high tech, but something happened and his family had a very difficult time.
Oh, you must be talking about Dr. Charlie Bender.
That is correct.
He was the most amazing, one of what they call it, a unforgettable character. He
Yes.
was, upon his death, all of his students came to his funeral and to his celebration of his life. He was one of the most amazing people I know. Every time in the classroom, he would grab me as I come in the door and push me into the next room. He says, I want to take your vitals right now. He took my blood pressure before every class because he knew that, you know, sometimes I would get a little bit excited and a tendency to feel sometimes weak or whatever. We would go out for lunch all the time. I came to his house all the time and helped him with his computer. It was amazing. People like that you just don't find anymore, and I miss him terribly every time. And he's not the only one. There are several others. I miss Dinu Negru very much, and I can still hear him saying to me, Barry, let's get on with this, please. That's how he would always say things. Stop talking. Are we in a class? Oh, not. Say something. Come on.
Somebody
Yeah.
asked where I'm from. I'm 35 miles northwest of Los Angeles.
Mhm.
I have people arguing with me and tell me I'm really living southeast, but no, I live southwest, and I spent most of my time within very few miles of the beach in the South Bay, breathing that 3 o'clock fresh breathed air that comes in off the ocean.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Anybody else have something to say? Okay.
Yeah, I
Yes.
do.
Barry,
Yeah.
go ahead.
I want to thank you. It was very good. My question is, when you fill out these forms, you know, you were saying that you don't fill out certain things on the forms and stuff. Now, I can remember filling out forms. It would seem that when you finish filling them out and you leave something out, it won't let you go on.
It's not that kind of form. It's
Oh.
it's a Word table
Oh, okay.
or an Excel spreadsheet. And
Oh, I
just
see.
delete, and so just delete the row that doesn't apply to you. What you need to do is read the document. Oh my God, I walked in the door, now what do I do? And
Yeah.
just cross off. I still edit with a red felt tip pen, and this one happens to be blue. And just cross off immediately from there what you don't want and add what it pertains to you. And I go, oh my God, she forgot this. And when you're finished, then you have a table or your spreadsheet, and it'll be easier to fill in if you've already crossed off or added on the doc.
Now, one other thing, that when you finish these forms and you fill them out, you have somebody check them to see if everything has been, you know, filled out properly, and
Nope,
you don't need to do that?
nope, you check it yourself, and it asks if you have a plot. Answer is yes. Where is it? Who paid for it? You know, who has your power of attorney? I have mine printed out, and then they're in that bag to the left of the hutch in the dining room.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Judy, thank you so much for coming.
You're
I
welcome.
appreciate that immensely. I hope you get a good night's sleep, and thank you for getting up and giving us a blockbuster presentation.
I'm up this time of day anyway, Barry. I'm just not giving presentations this time.
Okay,
Except to your group. You're the only one that is on the East Coast in the morning.
yeah, we have been, I value our friendship very much. I don't want to mention all the things that we've discussed, you know, over the years. And I'm sorry about the demise of the VTC. Maybe we should put that into the estate plan for the for the APCUG.
The Saturday safari is the same thing,
Oh, it's just
except it's
changed.
not a webinar. It's a meeting like this where we can all see each other.
Oh, great.
In webinars, all you saw was the presentation. And like I said, it was difficult to give people to give presentations when they couldn't see anybody. In my case, I'm looking out my window to my big backyard. I'm on the edge of a canyon. I'm looking across the canyon, unfortunately, at a lot of greenery, which will die. And the fire season this year is going to be horrendous in California. But we did get rain, and we're not out of our drought, but it's a two-edged sword.
Okay, Bob?
No, thanks, Judy.
Okay, thank you
welcome,
very
Bob.
much.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay. In 2 weeks, which will be March 18th, St. Patrick's Day will have passed. And as I mentioned in the beginning, for those of you who are not here, on March the 8th, next Tuesday at 1 o'clock, Apple's going to do a big event. They're going to have a new iPhone SE special edition
Okay.
and other things, and it's going to be virtual like it was before, probably pre-recorded, and it'll be streamed live across everything you can mention. Also on March 13th, Sunday, we go back to Eastern Daylight Time or whatever at 2 a.m. So remember to move your clocks ahead 1 hour on Saturday night. And the computer should do that, and all other devices, at least the latest ones for the last, I guess, 3 or 4 years or more, will do that automatically. You can simply just shut down your device, and in the morning, your phone, everything else will automatically convert to the new time, if it's applicable to you. Some people don't have to adjust their time, but that's just something to tell you. In 2 weeks, we're going to have a presentation by Haley St. John Eyre from the Broward County Library. In this case, she's going to do the entire site, a tour. It was very popular when we did it in the classroom, and you'd be amazed, even if you're not a Broward County Library card holder, how similar this is to what you may have in Palm Beach County or whatever. So don't stop attending just because you may not be a Broward County resident. There are so many things on there now, a special e-media site that I use constantly to get free magazines and everything like that. So if there are no further questions, I want to wish everybody the best of health, stay safe, pray for the poor, for those poor individuals in Ukraine who desperately need our, if not our financial support, but certainly our moral support. And say goodbye to everybody.
Goodbye. Have a good 2
Bye.
weeks.
Thank you. Wonderful
See you in 2
presentation.
weeks. That was very good.
I will,
Very good.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
I will post the links on our handouts page, which is under member resources, Lorraine.
Oh, thank you.
I will also put it under ICYMI, which stands for in case you missed it. We'll post them in both places. I'll see that all of you get this from the meeting, and you can send it to others who have not been attending, or I might send it to everyone just as a, a freebie. Okay, everyone. See you soon.
Thank you. Have a
Thank you.
good weekend.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.